Welcome back. I'm going to do a video, and this was a question that came up a couple of videos ago by somebody. So if you ever have a question, feel free to comment below. And if it's a topic that, pretty simple answer, I'll reply right to it. But there's a lot of times that I've gotten topics for videos based on questions that people have. So this video is what happens at the end of lease, as far as what options do you have, how does end of lease work, end of lease, lease completion bonus, things along those lines. And I'm going to defer a lot of that information because, first of all, a lot of it's very complicated. As far as the math that goes into a lease completion bonus, I can't even really give, I can give some semblance of an example, but even at that, it's too specific. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the description. It goes to the Success Leasing website and to what they call their Knowledge Center. And their Knowledge Center has a lot of stuff. It has, the manuals for the individual trucks. And I'm not talking about, stick shift. I'm talking about PDFs of the owner's manuals for these trucks. So they have a Peterbilt, a Freightliner, an International owner's manual for the trucks. It has information, a basic framework of how leasing works, a basic framework of how a lease purchase works. Has some information on how, if you want to buy some add-ons when you lease a truck, and how much some of that stuff costs. Lots of stuff like that. So there's some information there, and it's going to give you a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of some of this stuff. But this kind of goes back as well to the leasing or company, and quite frankly, I've said it before, leasing is my general piece of advice if you plan to stay with the company. If your plan is to come to Prime and work for a year and then leave, especially if you can't find a short lease, leasing's probably not the best for you. Leasing works when you can get to the end of lease, the turn in the truck part, based on what's called the lease completion bonus. And the lease completion bonus, and again, you can go to that website, it's based on a mileage charge, which is 5.25 cents for every dispatched mile. And then there's excess mile, and this is why it's so difficult, because the excess mileage charge varies, depends on, number one, do you have a 3 or 4 year lease? It depends on how many miles you run. Under a certain amount, there is no charge. Between another range, it's 5 cents. Between another range, it's, I think, 3 cents. Between another range, it's a penny. And the reason that they do that is because of additional wear and tear. And then there's tire fund, which is 2.5 cents for every dispatch mile. And all of these, the reason that they're charging you this money is it's money that's set aside in an account that is your money. It's part of your pay. They take it out of your pay, and at the end of lease, it gets paid to you. That's when it gets paid to you. And the reason that I say, if you don't have an intent of completing your lease, I don't think leasing is a good idea, is because if you don't complete the lease, you don't ever get that money. You forfeit that money if you turn in the truck early. Now that money sits there, and no, it doesn't accrue interest, but if you need tires and you need to spend $2,000 on a new set of drive tires, and maybe you blow a tire on the side of the road, things along those lines, that's what the tire fund is for. Now you turn in the truck, any money that's in that tire fund, minus wear and tear on your tires, is going to be refunded to you. It is your money. And they'll prorate, they'll do a tread depth reading on your tires, they'll prorate whatever, because they're going to sell this truck. at the end of lease. And they're going to put new tires on it. And they're going to give you a credit for the tires that you have. And if you've got 50% tread, they're only going to charge you 50% replacement for those new tires instead of charging you for a full set of tires. So that's how that works. But you're going to get the rest of the money back as long as there's enough in that tire fund. Now, if you purchase brand new tires right before you turn your truck in and you then use, you know, a 64th of an inch of tread, they're still going to replace the tires and put brand new tires back on, but you're going to get credit for all but a 64th of tread depth because they're going to sell the used tires as well that are on that truck. So you get credit for having those tires on your truck. And you say, well, who's going to buy used tires? Well, let me tell you something. I have purchased used tires for my truck whenever I've ran over a nail or something along those lines, and I've taken it into the shop here in Decatur. First of all, you don't want a new tire because, number one, it's more expensive. Number two, you want it to wear the same as the rest, so they'll sell those used tires. So that's, and then the mileage charge. And again, it's almost impossible for me, unless I had a very specific example, to go and say, you've ran this many miles, you've got this much in your, and the excess mileage charge is per week. So I can't just look and say, well, this truck has 300,000 miles on it, so I know it has this much in the excess mileage fund that's been charged. I have no idea. Maybe it ran 1,000 miles a week and wouldn't have anything in excess mileage charge. Maybe it ran 5,000 miles a week to get to those 300,000 miles. It's impossible to necessarily know. So that's one of those you'd have to talk to leasing. So getting back to end of lease, you're going to have whatever amount in your mileage fund. You're going to have whatever amount in your excess mileage fund. And you're going to have whatever amount in your tire fund. All repairs will be done to the truck. Repairs come out of those funds and you get reimbursed whatever amount you want. Now, the question that this person, whatever's left over. So the question that was asked was, what are my plans? I have 9 months left at this point. Next August of 2019 is when the lease is up on this particular truck. And someone asked, what are my plans? Well, I'm going to be honest and say I don't know what my plans are. But what are the options? So the scenario I ran through with tire fund, mileage fund, excess mileage fund, all of that stuff. If I turn this truck in at the end of lease, I can release another truck. I can walk away and get that money back. And even if I lease a different truck, I'm going to get that money back as a lease completion bonus is what it's called. I can switch and become a company driver. I'll still get that lease completion bonus. I can switch divisions. I'm in tanker now doing dedicated. I could go tanker over the road. I can switch to the reefer division, flatbed division, intermodal. Doesn't matter. I'll get that lease completion bonus. I can go to a different company. My contract is up. I can leave Prime. I can leave the trucking industry. I can purchase this truck. Prime, and I said, has lease purchase opportunities, and that'll be on that page as well. New truck lease purchases and used truck lease purchases. Starts with a $13,000 down payment. There is a longevity bonus for you where they'll take $1,000 off that $13,000 down payment for every year you have been at Prime. So I will have been at Prime for 4 years. It's up to $6,000 that they'll take off of that. So they would take $4,000 off. So I would owe $9,000. And if you go and you look at that, one of the things they'll note is you owe $1,000 when you order the truck or when you make the commitment, and then the remainder is due. So I would have to pay $1,000 as a down payment on the lease purchase, and then the other $8,000 would be due when I signed the lease. There's also $1,000 due which can be financed on the APU for the unit. So that's another option. And as far as ordering a truck, there's two different kinds. There's, like I said, I could lease purchase this truck. I could lease purchase another used truck that Success Leasing, which actually would be Pedigree Sales. They're the company that sells trucks. So that's another option, is a lease purchase of this truck or another used truck. Or I could lease purchase a brand new truck, which I could custom order to whatever specifications I would want. And that would go into some of those options that you see. You could also just lease another truck and do the same thing as far as switching divisions, whatever. And usually what they'll do, and there's a waiting list depending on Peterbilts, I know have a longer waiting list than Freightliners, but you can custom order just about anything as far as the options. I know the Peterbilts, although it sounds like they're switching from the current Peterbilts to a different Peterbilt, but there are some options in the sleeper that you can custom order. You can order the window curtains. You can special order any color you want. Obviously, the graphics, Prime is very well known for colors and graphics. You can custom, and it's all how much money do you want to spend, because Prime will set you up in a basic truck with a basic set of graphics without charging you extra. But if you want to do some of the fancy colors, some of the fancy graphics that are on these trucks, some of the extra, you want the deer guard to not be black, you want it to be match the color of the truck, Prime will gladly charge you extra to do all of that. And you can make that argument, well, why are you spending money on a truck that you're not going to own at the end of lease? And my argument would be, a lot of especially the over-the-road drivers, you know, you live in these trucks pretty close to 24/7, 365. You might as well like where you live. So that's why a lot of the guys do it. You're going to spend 3 to 4 years. Again, reefer leases are 3 years. Tanker and flatbed leases are 4 years. You're going to spend 3 or 4 years in the truck. You might as well like what you have. But those are the options as far as end of lease. Like I kind of had to go back and talk a little bit about the difference between leasing and company drivers and the end of lease bonus. And then those options are you going to stay at this company? Are you going to continue doing what you are doing right now? Are you going to try something different? And if you're going to try something different, that's when you start to see what the options are. But if you're going to continue to do this, if I'm just going to stay in Decatur, Indiana, do the same thing 3-4 months or so before end of lease, so next spring I would contact Success Leasing, let them know, hey, I want another international, maybe want a Freightliner. Next time, of course, next time I will have to get, unless I do a lease purchase, that's something that Prime is definitely switching to, is those all automatic trucks. So next spring I would have to switch over to an automatic, but I will have to call them in the spring if I'm going to continue doing this and say, my lease is up in August, you know, let's get set for a new truck at this particular time. So that's the options and things that happen at or towards the end of lease. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again next time. Again, if you want to come to Prime, click on the link in the description, and thanks for watching.